Bobby Fischer. Do we really know the true story of Bobby? Do people really understand, if they care, what Bobby did for the world of chess and professional chess players? Do we really have any idea of the fantastic, incalculable achievements Bobby Fischer made? Chess is a mind game. Standing alone mind was not supposed to prevail over the collective mind in days of no chess software and computers. But Bobby did it. And understanding of this fact rattles the brain. As sports go, chess is not lucrative for the average professional. Millions play chess. Thousands are involved in competitive chess, but only few of them manage to get atop, and earn substantial money from doing chess. An average pro chess player makes near nothing. Even these days top 10 GMs and the world champion are alright, but almost nothing compared to other professional sports. Bobby Fischer was first to change things for better. Going across and around the board, chess pieces may appear cool stuff, but most of us have no idea of what's going on up there. It gets really interesting, absorbing and gripping when you know a lot about chess. This is one of the reasons why chess never made a mass market. Chess involves a struggle of will. Chess requires ability for long-period concentrations. Some people take chess as a competition board game, the game of conquest, conflict and competitive skill. Some people love art in chess. Some people find in chess a spiritual practice, mental exercise and mental stimulation. But whatever it is, chess is a tough business.
Understanding Fischer's way of life, understanding his conceptual tool, lies in the field we barely have idea of. Most of the world champions and super GMs of all times were and have actually been guests in the world of chess. They move the pieces across the board, they dive into opening theory and chess variations. They spend enormous time on building chess ideas and traps for getting advantage and win the other guy. But sooner or later, they all have to, and they do emerge from chess, and get back to life. Bobby did not. He lived in his submarine with all those drills to run, and other things essential for surviving. Robert James Fischer was born on March 9, 1943 in Chicago, Illinois. In 1949, the Fischers family moved to New York City. 7-year Bobby and his 11-year-old sister Joan spent long days in the empty apartment in New York City. Regina Fischer was a busy mom, she wasn't around quite oftentimes. One day Joan bought a chess set, with a list of chess rules. Bobby learned rules from the instruction attached to the chess set. He just moved pieces around the board, until he found an old book of chess games. Then the magic came. Little Bobby discovered logics, strategy and tactics. He discovered the law of chess openings, the beginning of the game. Now he learned the advantage of a precisely played beginning. From the day he found his first chess book and into his life, Bobby paid the greatest attention to other chess publications and periodicals.
7-year Bobby played his first serious chess game on January 17, 1951 in New York, versus American chess master Max Pavey, giving a simultaneous exhibition.
Bobby quickly lost his game, but Bobby's passion over chess was noticed by Carmen Negro, the president of the Brooklyn Chess Club. He introduced him to the club and began teaching him chess.
In the summer of 1955, 12-year-old Fischer joined the Manhattan Chess Club, the strongest in the country. In 1956, Regina Fischer asked well-known New York-based chess teacher John William Collins to be Bobby's chess tutor.
John Collins made a chess master in 1930s. He was one of editors of Chess Review magazine. John Collins coached future U.S. chess GMs, then young masters.
In Collins' house, the Hawthorne Chess Club, Bobby played literally thousands and thousands of games with Robert Byrne, William Lombardy and other strong masters, future U.S. GMs. In Collins' house, Bobby found a great chess library always at his disposal. Those were days of Bobby's formation as a chess master. The great tutor and coach, Jack Collins, contributed immensely to Bobby's future success. About that time Bobby began learning chess from foreign books and chess magazines. Those days chess magazines provided the only source of reliable, insider information on the evolution of chess openings, chess variations, chess events and other information, vital for a developing chess master. Bobby didn't learn games by heart. He learned strategy and tactical keen. He kept swallowing chess publications, and his fantastic memory provided a bonus storage for foreign languages. Regina Fischer was very instrumental in Bobby's chess career. She sent letters asking for arrangements for Bobby to play in chess tournaments. In 1957 she wrote to Khrushchev, requesting an invitation for 14-year Bobby to play chess in Student Festival in Moscow. But Khrushchev's reply came too late. Soviet GM Kotov had Regina's letter in 1957, requesting Kotov to publish Bobby's best chess games in Russia. She thought it would be great for Bobby to have a bank account in Soviet Union.
On October 17, 1956, in the Rosenwald Memorial Tournament in New York City, 13-year Bobby played one of the leading American chess masters at that time, 26-year-old Donald Byrne. Bobby played blacks. Donald Byrne, gallantly, didn't resign and let Bobby have all the glory. The game went into history as the game of the century, named by Hans Kmock in Chess Review. Hans Kmock wrote, "The following game, a stunning masterpiece of combination play performed by a boy of 13 against a formidable opponent, matches the finest on record in the history of chess prodigies." Seeing that game, Mikhail Botvinnik, the reigning world chess champion, said, "We've got to keep an eye on that kid."
The game scoresheet is around $100,000 value these days. Bobby won his first title in July 1956, winning the U.S. Junior Chess Championship, the youngest ever junior champion at age 13.
He was given a portable typewriter as the prize.
Not bad.
Next year Bobby again won junior and the $125 prize, these days value of around $1,500.
In 1957, 13-year Bobby was invited to play two-game match versus ex-world champion Max Owa. Bobby lost first game and made draw in second, losing the match.
Bobby Fischer won his first U.S. chess championship at the beginning to the year 1958, so he was under 15 and was the youngest ever U.S. chess champ. Bobby's IQ was around 180. He was definitely a high genius, but with no interest or capacity for schoolwork. He quit school in 1959 when he was 16. The U.S. chess champ at 14 with 0 losses and 1 point ahead of the second. The youngest GM ever and the youngest candidate for the World Championship under age 16. A school dropout at 16 with IQ around 180. School. A bunch of useless lies. Well, maybe. But school teaches kids how to socialize. Bobby did know that how to and made friends only with chess players.
In school we meet our friends. Friends. A bunch of useless flight data. Well, maybe. But friends say us things like, wait a minute. I'm not sure you're right on this. I'm not sure this is a must. Having no friends, you have no social sensors.
It was about time when Bobby lost his bearings with the only glue to life, chess, and crushed the other guy, no matter what. Bobby was growing a very strong chess grandmaster. Logic guided him through the chess complexity, through all those extremely difficult situations in chess.
He was becoming a super GM of crystal clear logical assumption of a chess situation. But chess is no life. It wouldn't take a chess grandmaster to figure it out. Chess logics do not apply to reality. Bobby didn't care. He was up to the major title. The world champ.
Playing.
I learned it when I was 6.
Wow. When you were 6. But you've been playing seriously only since when? The last...
9. I was about 9.
From 9 on. Now come the pink cards. Because this is a surprise to everybody, including Bobby. All of us have been reading about you, Bobby, of course. Especially about your invitation to go to Russia and to Yugoslavia to compete against the greatest chess champions from all over the world in the international tournament this summer. Isn't that right?
That's right.
Now, the only thing that has been keeping this young man from accepting this invitation to the international tournament is the lack of money for transportation. And that's understandable. I think it would be a shame, we think it would be a shame for an American to have to lose by default. So here for you, Bobby, are 2 round-trip tickets for you and your older sister to accompany you aboard Sabina Airlines to Moscow. Handbag for you to carry your chess men in, or whatever you carry in it. And I want to thank Sabina, by the way, for their marvelous cooperation and the last-minute arrangements for this young man. Good luck to you, Bobby. We'll be rooting for you over there in Yugoslavia and in Russia, and we hope that when you come back, we hope you will come back the champion, but whether you do or not, I hope that you'll drop back in on I've Got a Secret again and tell us about your adventures. Will you do that?
In 1958, U.S. Chess Federation requested Soviet Chess Federation to meet the youngest ever U.S. chess champ Bobby Fischer and arrange training games in Moscow. On arrival to Moscow, June 1958, Bobby said he was going to play Mikhail Botvinnik and nobody else.
Well, not this fast, kiddo. We got our youngest GM ready to play you. Boris Spassky, our world junior champ.
Disappointed, Bobby goes to Moscow Chess Club and begins crushing the chess masters there and present. For 2 weeks, Bobby plays chess all days long, from morning to night. Having had enough, one day, the club president pulls out his iPhone and calls the Soviet chess fed.
"Hey guys. We got an American champ kid here, crushing our masters at the Moscow Chess Club. You better send somebody up here, to put the kid back where he belongs."
They got kids national champions there in America?
Looks like that. And he shows.
Alright. On their way. GM Petrosian and Moscow champion Vasyakov arrived. Vasyakov, the best Moscow blitz, lost few games to Bobby but quickly got his bearings and literally crushed Bobby in their long battle. Petrosian was also in plus versus Bobby. There Bobby discovered a new world of chess, quite different level comparing to what Bobby had been facing before his coming to Moscow. Now Bobby got a big lesson, but Bobby was the one who always did his homework.
From the icy cores of his gigantic brain, now Bobby knew he was up against real power. But he didn't know something else. He would know just a few years later.
Tigran Petrosian later said that he would never imagine that a kid he had been called to come and crush in the Moscow Chess Club back in 1958, would become the world title contender, his rival just a mere 13 years later.
But that's another story.
Yes, absolutely. '58 U.S. champion, Robert James Fischer, then a 15-year international master, was eligible to participate in the 1958 Porter Oz Interzonal, Yugoslavia.
The top 6 finishers would qualify for the candidates tournament, which would determine who had the right to challenge the world champion Mikhail Botvinnik.
Bobby didn't want publicity. He informed the Yugoslav Chess Federation that while he is there, he does not wish to play any public matches in front of an audience, and he is very pleased that he found complete understanding.
"I would like to be as well prepared as possible for the tournament in Porter Oz, and not to be physically tired. Matches played in front of an audience are too exhausting, and there is too much unnecessary nervousness. By the final round, Bobby and Soviet GM Bronstein both had 11.5 out of 19. Fischer's final round opponent was Yugoslav GM Gligoric. Bobby played blacks and played to win. But when he knew that Bronstein lost his game to Cardoso and now Bobby was through the tournament, Bobby agreed for the draw with Gligoric.
Bobby accepted a draw to finish in joint 5th place with 12 of 20 and qualify for the Candidates Tournament. 15-year Robert James Fischer gained the Grandmaster title after winning 6 games, drawing 12, and losing 2.
Bobby rarely left his hotel room. He analyzed games and his opponent's styles until deep to the night hours, and then went to sleep until noon. Soviet Grandmaster Yuri Averbakh observed, "In extremely hard and tense situations, this kid appeared a perfect fighter, demonstrating amazing cold blood, precise calculation and lots of resources and storage." Benko US and Olafsson Iceland also became grandmasters.
In 1958, with the help of John Collins, Bobby wrote Bobby Fischer's Games of Chess. It was published by Simon & Schuster in 1959.
Bobby didn't play the 1958 Chess Olympiad in Munich, West Germany. There had been 2 versions why he didn't go. First suggested that he couldn't arrange the leave from his school. Second was, Bobby said that he, the 15-year kid, would play only #1 board, ahead of legendary Sammy Reshevsky. And when he had a solid no, he refused to go. The plausible version is for you to take. I believe that school was the major factor. Fischer dropped out of school when he turned 16, in 1959. He hated school except for Spanish and geometry.
The 1958-1959 U.S. Chess Championship, his second, Bobby Fischer won scoring 8.5 from 11. In 1959 he was sponsored to go to Argentina for 2 chess tournaments. The Strong International Chess Tournament in Mar del Plata took place in April. He took third, fourth, half a point behind winners, Ludek Pachman and Miguel Nadorf. At Santiago, Chile, he took fourth through 6 places. The even stronger tournament he played took place in Zurich, Switzerland, in May 1959. He finished behind the future world champion Mikhail Tal and the very strong Gm Gligoric from Yugoslavia. As usually, Bobby was hunting for the chess publications. He was often seen with old, dog-eared magazines and books in his hands. One of reporters that got lucky, and had the chance to put into his report the actual info, instead of a self-made due to the absence of the original, that is Bobby Fischer, had once asked Bobby how things were going with his memorization of all the chess games. Bobby considered important and must know.
I don't do that.
Then what do you do with all those books we see you all the time with?
I study and learn games. I do not memorize them. There is no fruit in memorization, you know.
Bobby, how many games do you know by heart?
Not many. Less than you think.
Doing top-level chess, that's what Bobby did. He was going to need a lot of very important information. No matter how genius he was, he had to learn basic principles of chess. And learn from others' mistakes. Bible told Bobby to do that. Just take legendary Samuel Reshevsky. Crushing chess masters at age 8 in simultaneous exhibitions, 7-time U.S. champion, Reshevsky spent little time on learning chess beginnings, and as a result, spent a lot of time on his first moves in his practical games. The fantastic, incredible tactics, he oftentimes suffered of the mistakes he had produced in the beginning of a game. It was no problem with strong masters and grandmasters, but was a real problem with the top-ranked GMs in the international chess tournaments, the Soviet grandmasters, whose job was playing chess. Soviet grandmasters had their salaries unlike the rest of the world of chess. When Reshevsky was 9, in 1920, his family moved to the United States to make a living of Little Sammy doing chess simuls in North America. Reshevsky did mistakes in the chess beginnings, but didn't do mistakes in his real life. He had to pause his chess activity and think of the practical things like the secondary education, the occupation. So he did it. Wisely, he had never made a chess pro of himself. He was an accountant. Real chess pro were the Soviet grandmasters. And on the other side of the crack, the chess maniac Bobby Fischer.
Bobby made a real chess pro. No life, just chess it. Nothing but chess. Literally.
Get it?
And no school, no education, no friends, not just no, but hell no. Big, fat, no. Bobby's school books were of chess. The most reliable chess periodicals and books were those, published in Russian.
Joey, I guess books like that had also been published in some other countries, and languages, as well.
Yes, absolutely. All the moves, diagrams and pictures are okay, no problem. But the very heart of the stuff, the analyzing done inside of the world's top minds and for their collective views against outsiders, is something real different and highly unavailable. Bobby couldn't afford himself waiting for the translation show up. Too slow. Too late.
Okay, I see. I got it.
Bobby had to learn Russian to the small extent that could make reading Soviet chess books and periodicals no prob. and sometimes to putting something like, "You got the Czech Grandmaster," in Russian, in order to knock his opponent off the balance. And say it without any foreign accent, with no aspiration, with non-alveolar consonant, something like, "Vimshuk, Grossmeister." The 1959 pictures have Bobby still wearing his junk cloths. In late 1959 Bobby changed his style for better, convinced by Pal Banco, suggested Bobby to be dressed better and do not compromise himself, already the world chess elite. Bobby took it seriously and began buying suits in every single foreign country he visited.
Bobby's chess coach was always Bobby Fischer himself. In his teens he became an outstanding explorer of chess openings and variations. Playing whites, Bobby began his games with e2 to e4. He played both closed and semi-closed beginnings. Bobby's achievements in exchange variation of Roy Lopez made this variation very popular for many grandmasters. Playing blacks, in response to e2 to e4, Bobby played c7 to c5, most times the Najdorf variation. To d2, d4 he responded with Old Indian defense and Grunfeld defense. Bobby always knew what was going on in women's chess as well. He always knew his opponent's likes and dislikes. Bobby was packed with chess ideas and never hesitated using his ideas, even in friendly and minor games, when result was not a great concern. He read chess periodicals and bulletins in Russian, Serbo-Croatian, Spanish and German.
The 1959 Candidates was a real tough event won by Mikhail Tal, the challenger in the next 1960 championship match with Botvinnik, who had never faced Tal before. Tal was 22. The next year he'd defeat Botvinnik and become the youngest ever world champ at the age of 23.
Bobby won 2 games from elite GM Paul Keres, 1 from ex-champion Vasily Smyslov. Bobby lost all 4 games to Tal, but everybody knew that Bobby became a real problem for the Soviet chess empire.
For the first place, Mikhail Tal also won the $1,000 prize. Bobby received $200. To fully understand what 16-year kid Bobby was dealing with those days, we should learn some facts on Mikhail Tal. Considered a magician those days, an extraterrestrial by modern GMs, Tal was a pure genius, absolutely foreign to the everyday's life. He couldn't make a breakfast to himself. Chain smoking, a glass of wine, or just a little bit more than a glass of wine, he would play chess anytime, anywhere. Regular chess, speed chess, bullet chess. Anywhere, anytime, with everybody. A great math, he managed multiplying three-digit numbers in his head, remembered telephone numbers as melodies. Tal was absolutely helpless in the homekeeping and any domestic activity. He didn't drive cars. To him it was similar to controlling a combat jet fighter. Mikhail Tal once considered his playing style and art itself. A year ago, in 1958 in Porterhouse, Bobby was very attentive to Tal. Now, in the 1959 candidates, Bobby changed. On Bobby's opinion, now, brain-killing, deeply calculated tricks, irrational sacrifices and muddy waters Tal generated, all that stuff had nothing to do with chess logics. Bobby took Tal's style as a pure gambling. Bobby just had to find a way to prove it.
I'm sure. In this particular game the gambler was Bobby, not Tal. In December-January 1960, Bobby Fischer again won the U.S. Championship with 7 wins, 4 draws, and no losses.
We are approaching the end of part 1 of this Bobby Fischer documentary, as well as Bobby's end of the innocence about those days world of chess.
1960, April, Mar del Plata International, Argentina. Bobby first time met Boris Spassky. Boris Spassky playing whites offered the King's Gambit, the variation he had won lots of fantastic games from very strong opponents. Bobby accepted the gambit and quickly lost that game, playing blacks. 29 moves crush. Spassky was clearly stronger of Bobby. He was better of Bobby in 1972, 12 years later, but Bobby won the match. You will know how and why in the third part of this documentary. No, it wasn't about Bobby's psychedelic tricks, no. In a death situation, Bobby found something different. In Mar del Plata, Bobby had received the clear message. "We got a real lot to stop you, Bobby. No way, forget about it." But forgetting that was the very last thing occurred to Bobby.
We'll see you in our next 3 parts of our Bobby Fischer documentary, which are still in production. See you later.
See you later. March 15, 1960. Moscow. 23-year Mikhail Tal is the title challenger and is about apex of his power, the chess power, that through all his life suffered from his health condition. 48 years old Mikhail Botvinnik is the reigning world champion. First game of the match. Mikhail Tal plays white pieces and plays aggressively. Botvinnik fails to find a path in the jungles of chess variations he has to calculate. He loses the game.
In his early chess career, up to mid-60s, Mikhail Tal's intuition, as a rule, was overriding calculation. It resulted in a high percentage of false sacrifices. In late 60s, it would have been proven that Tal was not an exceptional, fantastic tactician. But to prove that, his chess rivals had to be not just better on tactics, they had to be exceedingly, much better on tactics than Mikhail Tal was. Right there by the board, watching Tal's tricks and their time melting away. Mikhail Tal's reign of terror of early 60s, forced the chess world to improve tactics. Top GMs did so. Bobby Fischer was one of them.
Game 6 was a bulldozer, the irrational way of doing chess to Botvinnik. Playing black pieces, Mikhail Tal managed to generate a barricade of arduous, complex position. In the middle of the game, just as he had planned before the game, Tal produced his best trick. Now 48-year Botvinnik had to find a sound continuation, had to find a way to punish cheeky chess of Tal. Not an easy job to do, with little time left on clocks. Houdini analysis shows quite a long chain of precise moves, channeling game into the could-have-been catastrophe resolution to Mikhail Tal. It's no prob to machine, it's quite a problem to a human chess. Botvinnik lost his tracks, and lost the game. After 6 games played, Tal Botvinnik 2-0. Irregularity overtook the Botvinnik system and did put Botvinnik into a shuddering halt. He couldn't shrug off for the rest of the match.
I've run it on my Houdini. That knight sack, Houdini don't like it. Houdini gives big advantage to white, you can see it by the red bars right below the game in progress. I got a stupid question here. Why chess engines never jump on a chess newbie, the way human chess masters and GMs likely do, in order to make a fast win? Much better on calculating moves, unbeatable tactics. Houdini or Rybka could have made sacrifices all around the board, wobble the human newbie, hit his or her mind, and destroy the apprentice over 15 to 18 moves. Real fast and easy. But chess engines do not do that. The answer is, chess engines always make their most logical moves. Chess engines do not play hijack chess. Learned chess at age 12, 14-year kid Botvinnik won Capablanca in the chess Simul, grade competed in Moscow back in 1925. Logics and precision. 32 years later, in 1958, Botvinnik came up with the crazy idea of building a computer grandmaster. Doctorate, then professor in electronics, Botvinnik spent a lot of his life and vigor convincing concrete-ass authorities to go ahead and fund his research. Mikhail Botvinnik, a classic positional style, believed that chess is to be ruled by logics and precision. Mikhail Tal's hijack chess wobbled Botvinnik's mind. Botvinnik lost match to Tal, but Botvinnik was sure as hell that it was the Botvinnik's problem, not a problem of chess. In chess, in the world of rules and no miracles, there is only one way for things to go: logics and precision. Apart from this conflict, on the other side of the chess world, Bobby Fischer was absolutely agree with this point. Crystal clear logics and precision. And nail the hijack.
Tal won the match with 6 wins, 2 losses and 13 draws. Making draws was a real problem for impulsive and overloaded with energy Tal. But he survived.
We are approaching a very important moment in Bobby's life. Perhaps the most important moment in a teenager's life. A tremendous momentous. In the summer of 1960, 17-year Bobby Fischer rolled into Buenos Aires International, Argentina. The baddest tournament he ever had in his entire chess career. He only won 3 games through 19 rounds. But the awful result has the explanation. Bobby was very busy during the tournament. If you ask in astonishment what the heck was that Bobby's business that prevailed chess? Well, as I have already said, there is an explanation. Okay? And that's all. No comments. No details. Just take it as it is. Okay, alright. Only for you, if you swear to keep the secret for the rest of your life. And remember, you swear. If you cannot keep secrets, just fast forward this vid for a couple of minutes. There were rumors that Larry Evans was involved to the case, in a way, somehow. To some little extent. Just rumors. Vukovic, one of those media folks and Bobby's friend, was the special team of one, responsible for keeping the low profile on the event, and keep it out of Sammy Reshevsky's range of fire. Vladimir Vukovic was making history that day, guarding Bobby's door at the Grand Hotel Argentina.
I wouldn't go that far, Joey.
We've been doing Bobby Fischer documentary here. Documentary.
Joey, I know. But now just shut up, please.
Bobby's official explanation for his baddest ever performance was the poor lighting.
By the time the 1960 Leipzig Olympiad was about to arrive, Bobby Fischer was the 3-time U.S. champion. He stated that he would only play the board number 1 for U.S. team in Leipzig. Samuel Reshevsky disagreed. 17-year Bobby insisted. 48, going 49-year Reshevsky dropped out. We apologize for the quality of this historic footage. The game of event. Bobby was going to be destroyed the spectacular way. Playing black, Mikhail Tal spent almost 10 minutes on his response to Bobby's first move. I believe that Mikhail Tal was going to French fry Bobby. Tal knew that Bobby had lost his French to Ullman, early that year in the Buenos Aires International. Tall's incredible tactics he had showed in his match with Botvinnik was going to be employed as well. So the plan could have been this. To Bobby's favorite first e2 to e4, launch the French defense with aim to quickly divert Fischer by shifting the stage, and turning the game into a tactical brawl, where Tall was supposed to destroy Fischer.
Damn. Tall thought.
This stuff is no news to me, Mikey. Eyes to eyes, where the rubber meets the road, no quarter, now or never, close-range heavyweight boxing confirmed. That 17-year GM Bobby Fischer backed up his ambitions with capacity and problem-solving skills. All smiles, Mike Tyson of chess those days. Blindfold chess on 10 boards. Mikhail Tal was famous on giving his autographs accompanied with fake Bobby Fischers.
I've beaten Bobby so many times. So what's the big deal?
Tough guy Bobby Fischer didn't mind. In Leipzig, Bobby played unofficial blitz match with Tal and lost the match 1-4, 1 win and 4 losses. Regardless of their tough rivalry, Fischer and Tal remained friends for quite a long time. Bobby was sure he was going to win, but chess elite of those days GM of Argentina Miguel Nadorf found an escape from his losing position. When Fischer realized that somewhere along the path, he had lost the grip of the position and now there was no win, he agreed with a draw and swept pieces off the board. Later that very day, in his private conversation, Nadorf assured GMs he was talking to, that Fischer would have to wait a real long time for his next invitation to ever play in Argentina. There were rumors spread, that in Leipzig incident Bobby was getting even with Nadorf for his dropout from the Blitz tournament that had taken place in Caracas, Venezuela, around August that very year, before the Leipzig. In Caracas, Fischer and Nadorf had played 10-minute splits. Nadorf lost to Bobby and left the tournament. The score, consequently, did not count. Nadorf's bailout had made Bobby very angry. Bobby had to make incredibly hard efforts to take one of the prizes, in order to compensate the money he spent on ticket to Argentina.
In the preliminary, playing white, Bobby had made big news, losing to Ecuadorian master Cesar Munoz. The only Sicilian Dragon variation Bobby ever lost in his entire chess career. Then 31-year-old Cesar Munoz was no chess professional. He was a professional engineer with a very rich chess background and games in a few very strong international chess tournaments. Cesar Munoz Club has an outstanding record for a national master. We've been doing Bobby Fischer documentary here. Bobby did chess. So let's check the game. Again, I ran on my Houdini. Had long been known as the Dragon Killer, from his game with Bent Larsen of 1958 Porter-Oz, Fischer lost this particular dragon to Munoz. Perhaps thundering sweet memories from Buenos Aires.
the final, playing black. Nimzo Indian, Bobby lost to Yugoslav GM Gligoric, Gliga, of chess elite those days. Game lasted just 33 moves. Through his chess career, apart from friendly games, Gliga won 4, lost 6 and made 6 draws with Fischer. He was one of few Fischer's longtime friends. 89-year Gligoric died in August 2012. After all the complications, game came to this. U.S. team won silver medals, behind Soviet Union. Bobby took third place for individual result. In the Leipzig Chess Olympiad, Bobby Fischer won 10 games, lost 2 and made 6 draws. The 1960 Leipzig footage and 2 of late 1950s, exhibit some Bobby's demons he would have to fight through all his life. Competing adult GMs is just quite enough to put a kid in trouble. Just check the way Mikhail Tal did it.
We got a kid here. Hi kitty.
By the chessboard, in front of his opponents, Bobby Fischer was an open script. He had never been an overachiever in hiding his both doubts and convictions. In chess, body language, the facial expression, reveal a lot of information. Not as much vital as it's supposed to be in poker, but still very important. By the board, Bobby had never cared about his body language. His facial expression had always revealed his inside undergo. Most times unsure and hesitant at the beginning of the game, Bobby sometimes had to fake his self-confidence. Just fake it until you make it. Make it out of your advantage in the game. Bluffing was the other guy's business. Bobby's business was nailing the other guy for bluffing. In the 1960 Leipzig, Bobby Fischer was given some important lessons and some homework to do. Draw in the heavyweight brawl with Dahl made Bobby even more confident of his capacity. In his My 60 Memorable Games, first published in 1969, which by the way had not just victorious games but 9 draws and 3 losses, in annotation to the Leipzig 1960 Fischer-Dahl game, Bobby Fischer said that 14th bishop b5 takes on c6 is better than bishop c1 to g5. The move had been actually played by Bobby. I set the position for my moderate 900 megabyte hash Houdini, and after a few minutes of evaluation, Houdini made the same move. Bishop b5 takes the black knight on c6. I took my time, pacing the game from the very beginning up to the 14th move, giving Houdini best evaluation job for both sides. The game lasted just 21 moves. Mikhail Tal escaped by managing the perpetual check. I love Leitali vs Fischer game of the Leipzig 1960, with that bazooka sort of queen sacrifice. Just check this out. The way Fischer exploited weakness of Leitali's position, the weakness came from violating the very theory of chess openings by Leitali, playing white pieces here. Ideas like this always deliver enormous impression by the beauty of simplicity, harmony and logics in one single package.
Now we are about to discover the fundamental of chess experience, the pattern idea. This knowledge makes GMs from masters. This is one of the chess secrets ordinary chess players never discover. The pattern. There is no fruit in memorization of chess games move by move, except the game openings with all those vital rules of developing the game from the very beginning.
Patterns. The Leitali Fischer game brings up one of the patterns great chess coaches like John Collins keep collected, systematized and ready to learn for their students. Every pattern idea should be learned by heart. Bobby Fischer learned this stuff from John Collins and had always kept it in his scratch pads, as well as in his head.
I believe Bobby had always enjoyed the moment he encountered the pattern idea in his practical games. To me, it's just like meeting an old good friend from remote past. In practical terms, it's just the way sophisticated knowledge beats an ordinary know-how.
Leitali vs Fischer game comes with the decoying pattern. A handful of ways to go with the main goals as follow: win the material, build a winning position, or mate the opponent. Do chess engines use patterns?
No, they don't. They brute force all the possible moves, and pick the single best. They calculate millions candidate moves in seconds. This is a pattern, can be made of one of the great Paul Morphy's game, played in now ancient year 1858. It involves decoying and damming.
Joey, you ready for a big question? How do masters and GMs manage to keep all this immense file in their heads?
They don't have to. They don't have to keep all of those images and moves in their minds. In their minds they just keep the number of patterns they want to be remembered. Having had the total number of entries, you can just evoke the stuff from time to time, rebuilding the mental file, topics and ideas. Just like that, I guess. There is another important stuff to know and remember to GMs. The opening theory. It can be memorized as patterns as well. Just check this Fischer vs. Reshevsky game, played in 1958-59 U.S. Championship. 15-year Bobby Fischer knew this pattern from books and publications he probably had seen in Collins' house, the Hawthorne Club, and he immediately exploited the idea. He made use of the F7 pattern.
Surprise to Sammy Reshevsky?
I dunno. Perhaps Reshevsky knew that idea, but it was no pattern to him. He got known that F7 thing, laughed and had some chat over the thing with folks, introduced it to Sammy, and then just forgot it. It was no pattern to Reshevsky. It was not on the list. The list, GMs regularly roll and check in their minds.
47-year non-professional Sammy Reshevsky versus 16-year real pro Bobby Fischer?
Could have been.
Joey. I checked it on Google. Google says this particular idea first time showed up in 1958, the same year Bobby played that game versus Reshevsky.
Exactly move by move?
Yep. The game had ended inside 10 moves. That F7 thing seemed to have knocked the guy off his chair. Literally.
Okay, no prob. But chess was not invented in the year of 1958. It had been long, very long played before that 1958. They just did not keep track of games. Okay, alright, I agree. Bobby found that idea in Collins' house in some old book. Second, Bobby knew this idea from one of Soviet chess magazines. It's no prob to me. It came a prob to Sammy.
As about non-pro Reshevsky been trapped into that F7 pattern, I have just found even more examples of that F7 trap. Amazing bites. Siegbert Darish, one of the chess heroes of late 19th and early 20th century, one of strongest and most influential chess players, had also fallen into the F7 pattern trap. It happened in the 25-board simultaneous exhibition game in 1912, Germany. Unbelievable. Just check this out.
Perhaps Darish didn't know Walther von Holtzhausen personally, and didn't know that Holtzhausen was a very strong chess master and chess problemist.
This is the magic Bobby Fischer had discovered being the 7-year kid, and immediately fell in love with. The next F7 pattern game was played in 1945, White Pieces played Nikolai Krogius. A GM and doctorate in psychology. Krogius will be one of the Spassky team in 1972 Spassky-Fischer match.
Small world. I am absolutely sure that Bobby Fischer had this pattern in his mental file, as well as remembered the name of the guy played White Pieces.
teenager, among climbing the social ladder adults, fighting for a piece of cake in a highly intense psychological environment. 17-year Bobby Fischer developed his appearance. Receptive, pleasant, open in conversation. Nice suits, self-confident look. The way he moved pieces around the board. The style he positioned his pieces with, that insistence, fixing the pieces before leaving them where he had just put them, with a slight turn. Like driving them into the board. Eyes drilling the board through all the game, but yet without a constant rigid grip, the way he'd be known in a while. I believe his body language was not a production people habitually develop in order to put an extra impression, which, by the way, is most required in the chess world. His inspiring body language was just a part of his unique features. You just can't pretend all the time. To be a champion, you've got to be born the champion. You can't learn the champ stuff.
The 1960 Leipzig had revealed some Bobby's still existing weakness and hesitation in some games. He played both black and white pieces. It was going to be a great deal else. To generate that amazing firmness and stability, Bobby Fischer would soon begin to display. In Leipzig, Bobby realized that he still had a lot of things to learn about chess.
In an interview in Leipzig, Bobby Fischer said that he would be the world champ over the next couple of years. Perhaps in 1963. But he would soon know that he was too optimistic.
He had to learn to best use his chances in the middle of the game, as well as in the end games, to create that chess hunter style, and attack submarine at her best. Well, actually, Bobby Fischer had no style. If you got one, they would learn your style and would make a use of it. So, no style. In attack class submarine, a silent service deep down below in chess waters, watching the dude afloat. And you've got to learn to tell the right moment, and then hit the dude just from nowhere, in a position the dude consider okay and no prob. That's it. But you've got to know water's best than dudes believe they do. Empty place in New York City. Regina Fischer forced to leave. Sister Joan gone with mom. Chess magazines and sets scattered around the place. Junk food, cockroaches all over lousy apartment, cockroaching thoughts in his head, loneliness.
So what's the plan to Bobby?
45 degrees down, full flank now.
We'll see you in part 3 of our Bobby Fischer documentary. We apologize for this immense load of chess in our lousy videos, the stuff hard to follow for the people unfamiliar with the world of chess. But there's no other way of doing a documentary on Bobby Fischer. Thanks for watching. Stay cool.
Take care. See ya.
1961. New York City. 13th U.S. Championship and World Championship Zonal, took place from 1960 December 18 to January 5, 1961.
For the fourth time in a row, 17-year Robert James Fischer won the championship and the $1,000 prize with 7 wins, 4 draws and no losses.
Bobby Fischer, William Lombardi and Raymond Weinstein qualified for the 1962 Stockholm Interzonal. However, both passed, since Weinstein had exams, and Lombardi joined the priesthood at this time. Arthur Biskier and Pal Benko went in their place.
Bobby Fischer resided in Brooklyn. Regina Fischer was forced to leave, but she continued to pay Bobby's accommodation. He lived in Brooklyn area, Bedford-Stuyvesant district, the highest crime rate in New York City.
Across the Atlantic Ocean, Mikhail Botvinnik had long been making his best to regain the crown from Mikhail Tal. The return, revenge match, took place in Moscow 1961, from March 15 to May 13. Mikhail Tal had spent his time enjoying the world champion title. Botvinnik spent his time on learning Tal's style and preparations to the match. The match was about to begin, when Mikhail Tal experienced major kidney problems. 2 weeks before the match he suffered the heart attack. Tal requested delay to the match. Tal's bohemian way of life was no secret to Botvinnik. He insisted on the official medical examination.
"I will beat Botvinnik in whatever condition," enraged Tal said in return.
So the rematch began exactly as it had been scheduled.
So now we got the rematch here. In 1960 it was the match. Now in 1961 we got rematch. I don't get it. I don't like it. From the challenger's point of view, why the heck agree on rematching my title I have just won?
It's been known that having the option of rematching was 100% Botvinnik's clause, his ace in the hole he had designed and established in order to be able to beat the other guy in rematch, having the other guy's style weighed and measured. The another point was that Botvinnik was the world champ. Yes, he was, but he was still a pawn in the Soviet political hierarchy, whose job was to decide what to do and how to do, not Botvinnik's. But whatever it was, Botvinnik had twice benefited from this rematch stuff.
Cool. The 1961 rematch we are talking here was the very last through the history of chess. After this 1961 event, World Chess Federation decided to put an end to the automatic right for a deposed champion to demand the return match. So, 24 games of rematch to finally, once more conclude the world champ. Mikhail Tal, the crown holder, had chance to keep the title with the total score 12-12. To keep the title for another 2 years.
Mikhail Botvinnik lost his title to Tal the previous year, but spent his sorrow times very effectively. Botvinnik had learned Tal's style, had developed a way of dealing with Tal's hijack chess that was reinforced and intensified with Tal's ability to see what the position was driving into. Ability to make it out, to see the final stage behind the jungles of variations, was a true gift of Mikhail Tal. Garry Kasparov would point out later.
One of the greatest positional players, Botvinnik's strategy for this rematch was choosing the correct openings. driving games into Queen's Exchange, getting rid of any tactical complications, get out of spiky razor-sharp variations, make Mikhail Tal playing games he didn't like and was not comfortable with, channeling games into Botvinnik's favorable endings. Botvinnik spent a lot of time on cooking the stuff Mikhail Tal was not able to swallow. A might be effective way for 49-year-old, real badly beaten and humiliated in the 1960 match Botvinnik, doing chess versus 24-year young Mikhail Tal.
Effective, off balance against a human, but a total waste of time versus these days, 21st century pewters.
Absolutely.
Botvinnik won the 1961 rematch and regained the crown. Joey, I can't help myself of suspicion that Botvinnik kept on the throne thanks to his post-match analyses, home arrangements and preparations.
That's about 90% right, but people tend to get older, and Botvinnik's demand on rematch was his big help dealing against young challengers. He was truly a great chess mind and there's just nothing anybody could do about it.
In his life story that would come up much later through the years, Mikhail Tal would point that 1961 rematch Botvinnik was something Tal had never expected to encounter. 1961 Botvinnik was in full control of himself and ready to fight the complicated positions if he found them promising. The 1961 Botvinnik was able to do things 1960 Botvinnik had not. As about Mikhail Tal, he remained himself through all his life, he never changed. Had he changed, the conversion would have never been the great sparkle or fireworks Mikhail Tal was, everybody knew through all his life. Joey, in a nutshell, what was Botvinnik's plan that worked against Tal?
Bound and confine. Prepare new stuff in the well-known openings and variations, like Nimzo and Old Indian Defense, in other words show the hijack your big gun. Oh yeah, and the coffee story. Through his life up to 1961, Botvinnik didn't take no coffee, he preferred tea instead, until the 1960 Leipzig Chess Olympiad in Germany. To his great surprise, 49-year Botvinnik learned there that coffee immensely boosted his power and concentration after long and frazzling 4 hours of game has been played. So he would bring the jug of coffee to every other game of the 1961 rematch. Well, except game 20. Botvinnik was leading 11-half to 7-half. After 42 moves played, game 20 was adjourned. Botvinnik was supposed to lose the game. But home analyzing gave Botvinnik a poor chance to use the stalemate idea, in order to make a draw. Nobody was told of that mere chance, except his wife and daughter. To all those "how you doing" phone calls had been received before finishing the adjourned game, he kept saying things like "not okay, the game is lost." And he didn't bring his coffee jug the adjourned game, meaning the finish would be fast and quick. He knew he was losing the game. And his trick worked. He managed to draw and bring the score 12-8, practically winning the return match. Tal lost the return match. On his arrival home from Moscow, to his mom's inquiry on how things were going on, Tal said, "Mom, I am the youngest ever ex-champion." So Tal kept his crown just for the single, short year. A one-year world champion. He would never come close enough to once more challenge the title.
I remember the story his wife shared with one of her close friends back in '60s. Tal had once complained that from the very morning something wrong was going on with his feet. She checked him and found his right shoe on his left foot, and left shoe on his right. Tal was suffering for the whole day, but it never occurred to him to put his eyes down and see what the heck was wrong with his stuff.
Lol.
In June 1961, the American Chess Foundation announced planning the match of the two long-time rivalries, four-time then-current U.S. champ 18-year Bobby Fischer and eight-time former U.S. champion. The extremely formidable match player 49-year Samuel Reshevsky. Absolutely fantastic opportunity for young Bobby Fischer to learn playing matches. Chess matches involve quite a bit of strategy and psychology, pretty different from the chess tournaments. The match versus chess genius Sammy Reshevsky was a big learn to Bobby. The chess world predicted Reshevsky's victory. At least, odds were in favor of Reshevsky.
The 16 games match began on July 16, under patronage of Jacqueline and Gregor Piatigorsky. First four games were going to be played in New York City. $6,000 prize and George P. Edgar Trophy. Great event, great prize money of around $50,000 these days.
But match didn't make it. After 11 games, match got tied due to scheduling dispute between Fischer and Reshevsky. Reshevsky, an Orthodox Jew, was unwilling to play chess on the Sabbath.
Then why the game had ever been scheduled for a Saturday anyway?
I dunno. So the game was placed forward to Sunday afternoon, to be played at the Beverly Hilton Hotel in LA on Sunday, August 13 at 1:30 p.m. But at about 10 o'clock in the morning, Fischer received the call that playing time was, once more, moved up to 11 a.m. Jacqueline Piatigorsky, the principal sponsor of the match, had a Sunday afternoon commitment she didn't want to miss. She wanted the game played Sunday morning instead of Sunday afternoon. Reshevsky agreed. Bobby did not. Normally Bobby used to study and analyze his games deep into the night. Those days he went to sleep at 2 or 3 in the morning, so he couldn't play an 11 a.m. game. Bobby had no intentions to forget his habit for that particular reason and refused to play 11 a.m. game. The game consequently was pronounced forfeited. The next game was to be played in New York City by Thursday, August 15. Bobby Fischer phoned from LA to say he wouldn't play unless forfeit was voided. He didn't show up for the next game. The 13th game was also declared a forfeit in abeyance on the arbiter's decision. The match was declared forfeited in favor of Reshevsky. He took the winner's share of prize money.
Bobby's self-esteem had been developed in his early years of Bobby Fischer versus Regina Fischer conflict. Playing competitive chess against adults, he had even refined his self-esteem to a measure of beyond any recognition.
Chess knowledge, great experience and great practice are things very important to every competitive chess player. Above and beyond those chess school bits and pieces, there is another very important entity, the psychological stuff. A thriving competitive chess player has to be real tough mentally and forceful in as much chess aspects as it's possible. Having a munitions store of cool habits and tricks to use against rivals is also highly welcomed.
Checkmate!
A lion and a weasel in one, fierce competitor, chess mammoth 49-year Samuel Reshevsky versus 18-year chess maniac, autistic arrogant, a gracious geek, tough guy Bobby Fischer. A war chess prodigy and genius Reshevsky, versus upstart chess prodigy and genius Bobby Fischer.
Get it?
From the people had been around this match, we know few facts we cannot ignore. 1961 Reshevsky-Fischer match was the big stumble to the Robert James Fischer's chess career. Second. Bobby Fischer couldn't lose. Losing the match had been death to Bobby. Game 1. Fischer playing black, stubbornly again played strategically inconvenient opening and got himself in trouble. My Houdini says that later, Fischer could have saved the game with 36th rook d5 to c5, with the variation, all after game analysis considered lost for black. In Game 1 Reshevsky showed his top-level tactics, that is how to do. Fischer got himself heavily beaten and exhausted by his unsuccessful defensive efforts. Game 2. Playing black, Reshevsky chose the variation close to the Sicilian dragon. Dangerous versus Fischer had been known as the Dragon Slayer. But Reshevsky did it. And paid dearly. Reshevsky spends almost 50 minutes, 50 minutes on his 16th move. Consequently, Sammy Reshevsky falls into time shortage. Fischer, in return, plays unsound 21st move knight c3 takes on d5, instead of better bishop e3 goes to d4. Having been deeply in time trouble, Reshevsky makes the blunder by his 26th queen g6 to e4 and after 11 moves of resistance loses the game. Score is 1-1.
Game 3. Reshevsky has advantage, but is short of time again and offers a draw. Fischer agrees. Game 4. Just another hard way, absolutely terrific game by Reshevsky. Perhaps doing this game number 4, Fischer understood what a giant he was up against in the match, and his sensors went on. Reshevsky again goes hard way, playing the Sicilian, and shows solid improvement versus Dragon Slayer Fischer. Draw. Game 5 was extraordinary. Playing black, Fischer makes a colossal positional misstep by his 17th pawn f7 to f5. Reshevsky knows that Bobby made an error. Bobby's calculations turned wrong. Reshevsky gets material advantage. Bobby's doing his best to draw the game. Time shortage, yes, again time shortage, puts Reshevsky in trouble. He blunders, 36th rook c2 to f2, and puts himself into losing position even worsened with time trouble. Bobby knows that and plays aggressively. He wins the game and scores 1 point ahead of Reshevsky.
Game 6. Playing black, Reshevsky again plays variation close to Sicilian Dragon, again ignoring Fischer's reputation of Dragon Slayer. I believe giving just another big message to Fischer, meaning I'm not afraid of you kid. Fischer agrees to a draw. Game 7. Bobby's 29-move crash. Playing white, Reshevsky uses his psychological advantage on Fischer. Reshevsky offers the sharp and double-edged variation, inviting Fischer to try it. Fischer accepts the challenge to play for a win, but then drives his game into a disadvantageous variation and loses the game. Excellent example of Reshevsky's psychology that worked on the young rival. And an excellent example of precision by Sammy Reshevsky as well. I believe it was about time, when Bobby thought that it was enough to him. Game 11 happened to be the last one. 50-year folks need more time to restore than youngsters do. Guess it was about time for 49-year Reshevsky to begin experiencing accumulated exhaustion. Playing white, Reshevsky again goes hard way versus Fischer. Doing so, of course, limits Reshevsky's natural player ability. On his 27th queen e3 to g3, Reshevsky loses material, so Fischer is supposed to win the game. "11 moves later Fischer blunders back, thinning his win chances. Reshevsky demonstrates his natural talent of tenacity and invention. Few moves later Fischer gives Reshevsky chances to even equalize the game. Sammy grabs the opportunity. After 50 moves played, both Fischer and Reshevsky produce series of unsound moves, a comedy of blunders by Fischer's annotation to the game he would give later. Huge disappointment to psychologically exhausted Bobby. Astounding tenacity, reinvention and a pull together at the crucial moment by Sammy Reshevsky. Deep inside Bobby knew that technically and psychologically he lost match to Reshevsky. But this tough event had toughened Bobby and made him know the match strategy, its challenges and requirements. That was sure positive stuff, worth to pay for, with both lost prize money and his shaken pride. "Bobby, what Russians say senior lousy stuff," Isaac Kashtin said ironically. Bobby provided no response.
Perhaps because Bobby was thinking of the oncoming tournament, Bled International in Yugoslavia. The tournament was going to take place in October 1961.
All right then. Say bye to LA and trail Bobby bound for Bled?
Yep.
Finally, he hasn't escaped me, Bobby would say later.
It's hard to play against Albert Einstein's theory, Tal said.
Now Black King is positioned dangerously close to Black Queen. No way to escape. Fischer can have easily exchanged one of his rook, leaving Black King stark naked.
GM Geller, the brilliant chess mind, will be one of Spassky team for 1972 Spassky-Fischer match. Geller played his home-prepared queen d8 to f6, to surprise Fischer. But tough logic's Bobby Fischer found the sound continuation right there on the fly.
I can't believe this. Geller forgot L'Atelier Fischer game from 1960 Leipzig Chess Olympiad. Geller forgot way Bobby had proved false this kind of bizarre chess. Having his queen put on f6, Geller has just stopped his kingside traffic. Kingside now is hard to develop. On the other flank, the queen side, pawn structure is completely ruined and cannot provide protection to king. After 26th bishop d3 to e4, Petrosian offered draw to Fischer. Bobby was going to accept draw, but saw excited Tal coming to check Fischer-Petrosian game. By Mikhail Tal's look, Bobby instantly knew that in case of draw in Fischer vs Petrosian, Tal would be the tournament winner. Bobby did not accept the draw and continued playing the game. So, what was Bobby's output in Bled 1961 like? Doing versus extremely strong, world top super GM Gligoric, tightrope walking Bobby plays an outstanding game, showing his expertise and tactical keen. Practically a perfect game. Very impressive. Mikhail Tal, right in the beginning of the game, slips in order of moves. Bobby leaves no chances to Tal. Geller tries to surprise Bobby with his homemade cookies, and gets beaten right there on the fly, inside of 22 moves. Petrosian is outplayed by practically imitating his style. It takes 36 moves. By his 27th move Petrosian commits negligence. Bobby shows his killer instinct and beats Petrosian. Of Fischer's performance at Bled, Larry Evans said, "He has shown beyond the shadow of a doubt, that he is a contender for the world title. Fischer has single-handedly broken the Russian iron grip on chess supremacy." Okay. 1961 Bled International is fine. But what about Bobby the world champ? What about millions of dollars from chess, changing chess itself, rook house and things?
Interzonal and candidates tournaments qualify for getting on this. Bobby Fischer chose not to play in the 1961-62 U.S. Chess Championship. The event was won by Larry Evans. Bobby Fischer won the Interzonal in Stockholm with 13 wins, 9 draws, and no losses. This was the first Interzonal that a Soviet player did not take first place.
About that time Bobby Fischer cult, the Fischer syndrome, was developed. He himself used to say that from then on he would beat anybody with no prob. Newspapers of all over the world kept saying that Bobby's simple and plain moves, his logics, seemed to be of Capablanca's best years. Bobby's fighting qualities of Alekhine best. Bobby took it seriously.
Next step for the match with Botvinnik was Curacao Candidates Tournament. It's simple. You win the Curacao Candidates, you play Botvinnik, beat him in the match and take his world champion crown.
Curacao Candidates. The big question was, who was going to play in Curacao? Who Bobby's opponents were.
I said no problem.
But there was going to be a whole bunch of them. A team versus single genius almighty Bobby Fischer.
No problem. I will beat them all.
So, Bobby's going to Curacao 1962. We will meet Bobby Fischer in Curacao in our next documentary. Meanwhile, we just check the world top GMs who were going to play Bobby. Chess grands with their own plans and ambitions. We'll see you in our next series of our documentary. Stay cool. See you soon.
Catch you later. Stay cool.